Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Today I'm looking at a book from Cambridge University Press, which is a very interesting book on competition law. The title is The Interaction Between Competition Law and Corporate Governance, or Opening the Black Box, as author Florence Thepot says. Now, I think I pronounced the name correctly. I hope I have. But I apologise if I haven't. Elizabeth was the lead writer on this particular review, and we've given a title for our review the following: Meeting at the Crossroads, the linkages between corporate governance and competition law. Let's have a look at the book. Here it is. That's the front page, or the front of it rather. There is the spine, and there is the back. It's part of the Global Competition Law and Economics Policy series from Cambridge University Press. As I say, it's not a big book, but it's got an interesting structure to it. It's a total of 280 odd pages. The index at the back is by page numbering, so you don't have the paragraph numbering with this particular book, and it is actually an academic book without any question. There's the front of the index there, and then after that, right at the back, you have a very detailed bibliography, which is quite substantial. Then you can see there's the bibliography there, and then of course in each of the chapters you've got footnoting and subheadings with conclusions, epilogues, whatever you'd like to call them. This is the series. This is actually what it says about the book first of all, some detail about it. This is the actual series that I mentioned, the Global Competition Law and Economics Policy series there, some detail about that. That's the actual front page, main front page. Some blurb from Cambridge University Press, then the content section. You can see the various chapters. There are nine chapters in total, including a conclusions chapter, the end, and a bibliography and the index. Then there are a couple of figures and tables, and you've got a preface and acknowledgements right at the beginning from the author. Then you've got abbreviations, always helpful when you're dealing with competition law that you have abbreviations, because you sometimes forget what they are. I certainly do, and it's useful to know because we are in a world of abbreviations to a certain extent. Table of cases, very interesting, by country. It's in this, starting off with the EU. Then table of legislation, again the same way with the various places, various jurisdictions covered. Then you get to the introduction itself, and you can see the structure. A lot of detailed footnoting throughout. You can see that just opening it up. A lot of footnoting. No paragraph numbering as such, so there's quite a lot of main text. And then there's a figure, for instance, just showing an example about links. This is about acquisitions, in fact. So there's the book. What do we say about it? Because I've always been fascinated with the Cambridge University titles. They really are first class. We say this: it's an impressive work of legal scholarship for you, especially if you're a lawyer, and certainly an academic involved with corporate law. And if so, the book will almost certainly enrich your understanding and generally broaden your perspectives within what is admittedly a vast area of law. And it's been published recently by Cambridge University Press. So the title, The Interaction Between Competition Law and Corporate Governance, has been pinpointed as the, quote, first systematic account of the ways and means by which competition law and corporate governance meet at the crossroads and actually interact, despite the fact that each discipline pursues different and usually opposing objectives. And the two entities, as author Florence Thepot points out, constitute separate areas of academic inquiry across jurisdictions, as most commonly they are often on opposite sides of the fence. Competition law, she asserts, is orientated towards the defence of consumers' interests, whilst the rules of corporate governance are designed to protect the interests of shareholders. So you've got that balance. And of course, as someone who actually found, certainly I did company law for my degree, and I did the competition module for my bar exams. So I find this book interesting, not just from the practitioner point of view, but actually from a much wider interest, from both the academic and of course from trying to keep up to date with what is happening, because competition law is very, very controversial, because it's the basis in many ways of why we got Brexit. Apart from the arguments about sovereignty and so forth, it is about our relationships with markets, and that's the basis of why this book, I think, is important at the moment. Because while some will agree with what we've just been saying in its entirety, others of course may not, and it's arguable that Thepot has constructed within this monograph a convincing and minutely analytical argument to support the stance. So we have to see where we go, because obviously this is effectively what the mission statement is, if you like, for competition law. Now, the book is supported by an incredible amount of research, as evidenced by the impressive 20-page bibliography at the back. The thesis has taken the author on a long and obviously enlightened journey involving London, UCL, Washington DC, Georgetown, Strasbourg, better, and Munich, the Max Planck Institute for Innovation and Competition. I thought he'd come into it somewhere. Plus the stimulating environment, of course, of the School of Law at the venerable Glasgow University, one of Scotland's oldest, finest universities, where the author now lectures. And it's well worth a visit if you ever go to Glasgow. The book postulates a number of issues, affirming, for example, that the firm, i.e. the corporate entity, should not manifest itself as a black box to competition law. Attention here, of course, is focused on the internal drivers of collusive behaviour within the firm, and the proposition, to cite another example, that there should be a unified approach to cartel enforcement. Absolutely right. The problem we have is you've got to think in this day and age, because we have a much more intelligent electorate, a much better educated electorate out there. They want to know what's going on, because they see some of these people doing some very odd things which you wouldn't be allowed to get away with elsewhere. If I can bring it down to earth, so you can see why there has to be this unified approach to the whole business of cartel enforcement, because people think they're getting away with it. And, you know, I'm just slaving away every day, and these guys are getting away with all sorts of things they shouldn't be allowed to get away with. So you see what the problem is. This book, says the author, is the first to discuss the issue of structural links from a systematic corporate governance and corporate law perspective, alluding thereby to the need to implement specific and possibly overdue reforms. And certainly that's something that I would think in the next 10 years we're going to be looking at very clearly. Once we get some idea of what our marketplace is going to look like internationally post-Brexit, if that happens. So you can see there's an awful lot to play for. Let me conclude by saying this, that over the decades there have been a lot of important work on scholarship on corporate social responsibility. It's been going, I think, in the last 40 years I've been hearing about this, and it's still there, and it's not going to go away. So it's important to remember that point, corporate social responsibility. The book, therefore, is commended for its up-to-the-minute and carefully researched approach to this and other key areas of concern within the broader arena of corporate law itself. The book reflects the law as at the 31st of May 2018. Let's just have one last look at it. There it is. It's the front, the spine, and then the back again. It's probably very difficult to see. They're just opening it in the middle. Corporate governance insights into cartels. Talked about this earlier. Again, an important area, because people get a bit cross about some of this. They really do. What you have got, which is very difficult to see, I said there's no direct paragraph numbering. There is, but it's not very easy to see. If you look very carefully, you'll see the numbering there. It's not at the sides, it's actually indented, or it's actually there, and it's quite complicated. There is some indenting there, which you can see, but it's not particularly easy. Obviously, the number, the first number is the chapter number, and so forth. But you should be able to find what you're looking for. Just remember, though, that the index at the back is actually by page numbering. Thank you very much to Florence and everybody involved in this book. I thought it was a fascinating book to review. Most grateful to Cambridge University for sending it to us, and thank you very much to all. Bye-bye.